Angular routing refers to the concept of navigating between different components or pages in Angular. Angular routing allows you to switch between different views based on the browser URL. We are going to first set up routing. Then we are going to set up a custom routing file. Then we're going to add a 404 callback page. And then at the end, we will add all the application route calls. Like for example, whenever we have the details button, we want to call the movie details page. Whenever we click the search button, we want to call the search page, etc. You'll also learn about getting the route parameters from a URL. So let us start with the first section, which is to set up the default routing in an Angular application. For that, I'll just go to Visual Studio Code. And then in here, I'm going to navigate to the app.module.ts file. Then scroll down in here on the imports array. I'm going to add another module, which is the router module. Now in the router module, I'll use the forRoute method. And then inside here, we need to define an array of all the routes. So basically, a route is composed of, at least like the default values are going to be the path. So what is the browser URL going to be, and the component that you want to load for that path. I'll just add the comma down here, and now inside curly brackets, let us define our first path. So path. Whenever in the browser we don't have anything other than the local host, we want to load the component. So I'll just type in here component, and that is going to be the home component. This is the first route definition. Then next, we can also define that whenever we want to have, or whenever we have in the URL home, we want to load the home component again. You can also define other paths in here, like for example, whenever the path is details, you want to load the details component. So this way you can set different paths. Now, I'll just leave it with 3 paths because in the next part, when we are going to move this section to a separate file, then I'm going to define all the paths. So this is the first step. The second step is that you need to let the app.component.html file know about your router module setup. For that, just go to the solution in here, then go to the app.component.html. So in here now, I will comment out this line because now I don't want to load a specific component. So I don't want to load the app home, app details, or app search. Instead, I will just type in here router outlet. And when you use this tag, what it means is that in here, you are going to load whatever component the router module is going to point you to. So for example, if the URL is localhost/home, then the home component will be loaded. And if it is localhost, then /details, the details component is going to be loaded. So let us just save the change in here. And let's go to our app. Here on the app, you can see that now since I don't have anything in here, the home component is being loaded. If you add home in here and press enter, the same component will be loaded. But if you type details, then the movie details component will be loaded. Now on the movie details, we have the actors section, we have the reviews section, and we also have the similar movies section. And for each section, we have created separate components. So if you go back to the code, you'll see that in here, for example, for the movie details, you have the details component, but then for the actors within the movie details, you have the details actors, then you have details movies, and then details reviews. If you want, you can just come in here and then create in here other definitions for the other components. So for example, for the, let me just scroll up in here, for the details actors, I want to load the details actors component. For the details movies, I want to load the details movies component. And then for the details reviews, I want to load the details reviews component. And as you can see in here, imagine you have, let's say, 50 routes. This file is going to get really large. That's why it's preferred that you have the route set up in a different file and then just add that file or just configure that file in the app.module.ts. So let's just go back to the app, and here we have details. If I type in here details actors, then only the actors will show up, and then reviews, only the reviews will show up, and then movies, only the similar movies will show up. We set up the default routing for an Angular application, but the more route definitions you have, the longer the app.module.ts file will get, which is why we are going to create a separate routes file. For that, let us go to Visual Studio Code, and then in here I'll just go to the Solution Explorer, so basically to the Explorer window, and then I'll create in here another folder. I'm going to name that folder the Modules folder, and then inside the Modules folder I'll add a new file. I'll name it the app.routes.ts. So in here what we're going to do is that we're going to define that this file is going to be an Angular module file. So for that I'll use the ng module decorator. Now we have said that when you have a component, the decorator is going to be component. When you have a module file, the decorator is going to be ng module. The ng module belongs to the Angular core, so for that I'll just import it up here, import, then ng module from Angular and then core. And now inside the ng module, we are going to define the imports and the exports. And then for this file to be available, you need to also export it. So export class app routes, so routes module, and then open and close the curly brackets. Now, just before the ng module, we are going to define all the routes. So const routes is equal to, this is going to be of type routes, so routes, and the routes belongs to the Angular router, so Angular router, and then in here we are going to create an array of routes. I'll just go to the app.module.ts, let me close the Explorer, and then copy the array from here. I'll actually just cut it, and then in the app routes.ts I'll just paste it in here. Let me just remove the extra square brackets, and then let us import the components. So add all missing imports. You can see that we have added the details actors, so basically all the imports, and the error is gone. Now in the imports we are going to define the router module, and then to the router module.forRoute we are going to pass the routes array. So basically whatever we have in here we're going to have in the app routes.ts. So let me actually just cut this line from here and then just paste it in here. Then inside forRoutes we are going to have routes, and also we need to also import the Angular router to also include the router module. So basically so far we have just defined the router module, we have added the routes to the router module, but for us to be able to use this file and have access to the routes, we need to export it. So now you can see that you have the imports. On the imports you basically just set up the router module, and for the router module to be accessible you need to export it. So in here I'll just type router module. So wherever you reference now the app routes module, you'll have access to the router module configuration within this file. So let us save the change in here. Now let us go to the app.module.ts, and in here, just after the browser module, I'm going to add the app routes module. Now this is all you need to do. So now let us save the changes and just go back to the app to see if everything is working as expected. So we are here on the app. I'll just type in here details. You'll see that we are successfully redirected to the details page, which means that the setup worked as expected. We are going to start this part by first updating the navigation bar and also the application buttons. In here, go to the navbar.component.html. I'll scroll down in here to find the items. And here, for example, for this home page, we have this A link. I'll just add in here, so on the A link, I'll add a new property named routerLink and then slash. So whenever you click this button, the UI will be updated to the local host. Now for the feedback menu item, I'll just add in here on the A link, just add in here router link, and this is going to be slash feedback. And of course, if you don't have the feedback, you just need to add it. So I'll just go to modules and then approutes.ts. I'll scroll down in here and I'll add another route, which is going to be, so the path will be feedback, and the component I'll load is going to be the feedback component. Now, since I have not created this component yet, I'll just comment out this line. So let us scroll up. So here we also have the search button. If you want, you can add the router link for the search button. So router link, this is going to be search. And of course, on the app routes, you need to type in here that for the path search, we want to show the component search component. Now let us just go back to the app. If you click on the search button, you'll see that you are redirected to the search bar. Now you have details button, but nothing happens, only on trailer. So we need to add now for the buttons, whenever you click the details button, you should be redirected to the details page. And then whenever you go to the details page and click, for example, actors, or view all actors in here, you should be redirected to a different page to show all the actors, the reviews and similar movies. So let us just go back to our code. So here I'll just go to the search and then search for BI and then BI-I. So you can see in here that on the search component.html, we have the details button. I'll just add to the A tag, I'll add the router link, and that is going to be the details page. I'll do the same for the other button. So here, I'll do the same, details. Now let us go to the details component. So details and then details.html. I'll just close this one, and you can see that in here we have the button to view all actors. So for that, I'll just type in here router link, and then we want to call details, and after details, the actors. Let's copy this one. Let's scroll down to view all reviews. So details reviews, and then we also have similar movies, but for the similar movies, we have not added, I think, a button to view more. Let us just do that right now. I'll just add it down here. So view more. Just change the text in here to view more. And then I'll change the text up here to view more as well. In here, we'll have now view more movies, so details movies. Now, if you want, you can also make the movie cards clickable. Like for example, if you go in here to app movie details, so I'll just go to the app movie details, so details movies in here, wherever you have this figure caption, and then in here you have the basically the actors, you can just make them clickable, or here on the home page, you can make, so on the homepage.html, we have the card M3, which is for a single movie. Then you have another movie in here, so you have two movies. You can make these cards clickable by just typing here router link and then details. Let's do the same for the other div. And then here on the fan favorites, you can do the same. You can just type in here details and then details to this movie and also to this one. Let us now just save the changes and go back to the app. So we are on the details page. You can see that all the buttons are updated to be view more. So if I click in here, I'm redirected to details actors. Scroll down. If I click on reviews, I'm redirected to the details reviews. And then if I scroll down to the similar movies, the same way, I'm in the details movies. Let us go back to home page. I've also made clickable all these cards. So if I click in here, I'm redirected to the details. And also if I click the card in here, I'm also redirected to the details page. Now this is how you add routing in the navigation bar and also on a button click. But you can see that whenever I click, I'm always redirected to the same movie. Now in a real app, based on the movie that you click, you should be able to load the data of that movie. And to load the data, of course, you need a parameter. The parameter in this case would be the movie ID, which needs to be passed through the route. So for example, if I'm loading the movie details of a movie with the ID 1, then I should be able to just type in here 1, press enter, and then I should be redirected to the movie with that ID. And same goes for a movie with the ID 2, 3, etc. The same is true for the search. Right now, if I click in here, you can see that I always get the same response. It says in here, example movie. No matter what I type in here, it's always the same page. That is what we're going to talk on the next part, which is routes with parameters. To add a route parameter, I will navigate to the app.routes.ts file. Now here we have a couple of routes that can have parameters, like for example, the details of the movie, then the actors, the reviews, and also the search. To add a parameter, simply after the details, for example in here, I'll add a slash because I want to have, for example, localhost, then slash details, then 1. So I know that I want to load the details of the movie with ID 1. Just define in here slash and then column, and then a name, which in this case can be just ID. The same goes for the actors. I'll just copy this part, paste it in here, then this here, and then in here. You can type in here whatever you want, but if you want to use this then in the component, you need to use the ID or whatever value you type in here. So for example, for the search, I'll just type in here slash, and then I'll not use ID, but I'll use movie title instead. Now let us just save the change in here, and then I'll go to the details component. And here we're going to see how we can capture that value. For that, we need to inject the activated route class. And this is going to be the activated route class. Let me just collapse the Explorer. So we have the activated route in here. Now just click add import to the Angular router. And then inside the constructor, we're going to use the activated route to get the parameter. So for that, I'll just type in here this dot underscore activated route. I'll just remove the D from here. And then dot params, which stands for parameters. Then subscribe. I'll subscribe to the parameters. And then I'll get the parameters as a response. So in here, you can type whatever you want. You can just type a value. You can just type params or just a P. And then that goes to, and then inside here, I'll just maybe get the value first, which is going to be the ID of the movie. Just type in here, movie ID. So just an empty string. Then you have this dot movie ID is equal to, and then use P. And then from here, I'll get the ID. So at this point, it's very important that what you type in here, so the ID, matches with the route parameter in here. So in here, if you type, for example, IDS, then you need to update it in here to be IDS as well. Now, this is all you need to do to get the ID. And if you want, you can just console.log it. So console.log. And then in here, movie ID is equal to this movie ID. Now let us do the same for the search. I'll just close this one. And then I'll just go to the search.component.ts. Here we have the movie title. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to inject the activated route. Then down here, then I'll just have the movie title to be empty. I'll just now type this dot activated route dot params, parameters, and then subscribe, then P, which is going to be the response from the subscription. And down here, this dot movie title, then I'll set the value of the movie title to be the P, and then the keyword that we have used in here, which is the movie title. So I'll just copy this value, paste it in here, and this is all you need to do. Now, since we have updated the routes for basically the details and the search, we need to go and update the route links. So I'll just copy this one, details actors. I'll search. This is a route link. And then in here, you can either hard code it, or you can just get the value from the details.component.ts, which is the movie ID. So I'll just copy this value. I'll just come up here, and then I'm just going to paste it in here. Let's do the same for the others. So I'll just do the same for the reviews, the movie ID. Let's do the same for the movies. Now, let us do it for the search as well. We need to have the two-way data binding. So in here for that, I'll just define that the search input, so ng model, is going to be the, let me just go to the navigation component, HTML, and then here I'll just type search movie title. It's going to be just an empty string, and then just have this one in here. So we're going to search for this movie title. But let's see what this says. It says that you cannot bind the ng model since it isn't a known property of the input. So here we see that we have an error. That's right, because this needs to be a lowercase n. And if you don't remember this ng model with the parentheses and the square brackets, you can just check out the two-way data binding part of this course. So in here now, we have the ng model. We have bound it to the search movie title. Let us now just pass it as a parameter in here. So search, and then we're going to have plus and then search movie title. Now I'll just save all the changes and go to the app. I see that in here I have an error. We said that property search movie title does not exist. So let us just go back to Visual Studio Code. And then in here, it says that search movie title does not exist, but let's go to the component, TS. You can see that this one exists in here, but let us change it to public and see what happens. Just go back to the app. We can see that the error is gone. So I'll just type in here, let's say movie Hervis, and then click search. You can see in here that we are navigating to the search bar, but in here we see movie Hervis. We see the parameter up here, not as movie Hervis, but we do see that we have the search movie title. So let us just go back to Visual Studio Code and fix it so this value gets passed to the URL. So in here, what we need to do on the router link, we are just going to add the brackets in here, and then we have search, and then after search we're going to have this one, then we have the plus button, and then at the end we're going to close it in brackets. So it's going to be router link, then we have search, and then we have search movie title. So this way we are adding this to the router link, and then also add to the router link the square brackets. So when you add the square brackets, now you pass this one as a value instead of just a literal string. We have the same issue in another section, so I'll just search in here for slash, then plus. It's on the details component. Let's do the same in here. So in the router link, we're going to have details, and then close it with square brackets. And then in here, we're going to have single quotes, and just add the movie ID. I'll just copy this A tag, scroll down in here, and just replace in here the actors with reviews. Just this part. So routerLink. And let's copy this whole A tag for the similar movies. And then in here, simply replace the reviews with the movies. Just remove all the extra lines. Let us save the changes. Let us go back to the app. So now in here, I'll just search for Elvis movie. Click search. You see that now I have Elvis movie. If I change this one to Trupia movie, click search. I have now Trupia movie. Let me just go to home page and search in here for example, and then click search. You'll see that you are redirected, and now we are searching for the example. If you go to the home page and then just go to any movie, just click in here, you'll see that I redirected to this page. And now if you scroll down, when you click view more, you'll see that I have details.actors.1. And if you just go to details.1, I'll open the terminal. With F12, go to console in here, and then just press enter. You'll see that we get the movie ID value is equal to 1. So far, whenever you have added a route link, you have made sure that the link exists. But that is not always the case, because users might try to navigate to URLs that do not exist. So instead of showing them an empty page, you can show them a 404 page. On this part, you'll learn how to create a 404 page component and set it up in the route configuration. So whenever users navigate to a link that do not exist, they are automatically redirected to that 404 page. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and see it in action. In here, the first thing that I'll do is that I'll create a new component. So for that, in the components folder, I'll just right click and then open an integrated terminal. And then I'll type ng generate a component. And the name of the component is going to be not found. So the component was created successfully, and you can see that in the app.module.ts, you can see that the not found component has already been added to the declarations array. I'll just cut it from here and put it up here, because down here we only have the pipes. Just copy this one and paste it up here as well. And in the pipe section, we're just going to have the profit pipe, which is a custom pipe that we have created in one of the previous parts. Now let us go to the app.route.ts, and in here, at the end, I'll just add, let's say, 404 page for non-existing URLs. So now in here, let us define another object. For that, on the path in here, I'll define 2 asterisks. So I'll just define here first asterisk, and then the second one. Now this indicates to Angular that this route definition is a wildcard route. So for the component property, now let's just define that whenever any of the URLs above is not matched, we want to load the not found component. Now if we go to the not found component, so we have the HTML file in here. I'll just go to the HTML. In here, you can just create a div. The div can have a class role, and then div in here, another div with call md12. And then let's have in here an h1 tag, which is going to be oops, an h2 tag, which says for found. Now you can be creative in here. You can create any not found page that you want, but this is going to be simple enough for me just to see if it works or not. Here on the app route, we have an error. Let's see what the error is. And that's related to the missing comma up here. So I'll just add the comma. You can see now full link. I'll just save the changes. Let's go to the app. And now, let's say if I go in here to a page that does not exist, for example, movies, and then press enter, you'll see that you are redirected to this page which says, oops, and then 404 not found. Now we are going to talk about another topic, which is the nested route. We have seen the nested components in the details view. Inside the movie details component, we are loading other components, which in this case we call the child component. Now, if you don't want to load them when the movie details component is loaded, you can load the nested components or the child component by using nested route. So let's say you want to load the actors whenever you just want to see the actors of this movie, and then you want to load the reviews whenever you click another button, and then similar movies the same way. So let me just go to Visual Studio Code. On the app route, what I'll do is that I'll just comment out all these lines, Ctrl+K+C, and then I'll comment out this line as well, but then I'll just copy this one. I'll paste it down here. I'll just type in here start nested routes and then end nested routes, because I've said that we will not need this feature in our app. So I'll just add the code in here, then I'll comment it out. But if you want to use it in your projects, you can always just get this code and update it per your app. So we have in here the path. The path is going to be details ID. Then we have the details component. And then now in here, we're going to also define the children array. And the children array is basically just another array of routes. So in the children array, we're going to have now a new route. So the path is going to be, let's say, for example, for actors. We want to load the detailed actors component. So for actors, the component is going to be details actors component. Then for movies, we are going to load the details movies component. And then for reviews, we want to load the details reviews component. So you can see that we are just adding in here children. And then inside children, we are adding other paths. So the full URL now is going to be, for example, for the actors is going to be details, then slash, let's say 1, and then slash actors. For the movies, it's going to be details, and then slash 1, and then movies, and for reviews, the same. Now I'll just go to the details component. And then I'm just going to comment out all the lines of code where I'm loading the nested components or the child components. We'll just comment out all of them. Ctrl+K+C. I'll just scroll up in here or just down here. I'll just type start nested components load and then end nested components load. I'll just make them comments. And now for the app to be able to load the nested component from the nested route, you need to define in here another router outlet. So let me just save the changes and go back to the app. And here you can see that now I have only the first section, but if I want to see, for example, the actors for this movie, I can just click in here and then type in here, for example, actors. You'll see that I have the movie title and then actors below here. If I want to see the reviews, I just change the actors to reviews. Now you can see that the reviews are down here. And the same for the movies, so for the similar movies. You can see that I have the similar movies.